Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting version of Chip Talks Health. So today we're going to talk about longevity. It's the first episode that we're doing in 2025. So happy New Year to everyone. We want to talk about aging and longevity today. And again, we're going to obviously be talking about the endocannabinoid system. We always do. It's such a big part of how we run our system and our function. So first of all, let's reset everything again. So how you work and how you think you work, perhaps you've been misled, or perhaps you've just been not taught the whole story. Okay, so we do have an ebook. So everything that I'm going to talk to you guys about today is in an ebook that you can go to Chip Talks Health. So just chiptalkshealth.com. And download this ebook that my wife and I have done that really is it's an owner's manual for this thing. Okay. And so, when I go and buy a lawnmower, I get an owner's manual for it. If I buy a chainsaw, I get an owner's manual for it. I get a care and feeding of my chainsaw and how to start it when it's cold. And if it gets sick, how to care for it, and all different kinds of really cool information. I get troubleshooting tips if things goes wrong with it. Well, no one ever gave that to me. I never got an operations manual for this thing that I drive around every day. And, I don't know every day if I'm doing things to hurt it or help it. So that's what we've tried to do, is build an operations manual for humans based on the endocannabinoid system. And it's a very detailed and robust, let's say, just a pamphlet almost, but it's 40 pages or so. But anyway, it's worthwhile and worth reading. And again, it'll be a deeper dive on everything that I'm going to talk about today. But first of all, let's level set this. So God is a perfect engineer. All right. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that at least where you're concerned, or where life is concerned, even, in nature, if you look at how a plant is engineered, it's pretty fascinating. I mean, plants convert sunlight into energy. Plants exchange, carbon dioxide for oxygen. Plants do all this cool stuff that's really important to our life, our physicality here on Earth. Well, so do you. You're pretty important. You're a pretty interesting cat, right? And when we begin to understand that we're just like a plant is just a collection of cells. We're just a collection of cells. And every single cell inside of us is always striving toward perfect function. Now, you might have some genetic defects and things like that. But again, there's cellular mechanisms that will offset genetic defects. You have something called acetylation and methylation that are there to really help you offset genetic defects. So genes really don't have a lot to do with this, okay? So it doesn't really matter what type of cell it is. So a cell will be as perfect as it can be. And if it becomes dysregulated, if it gets messed up or whatever, it's going to divide and form a new perfect self. And that guy's going to try to be as perfect as he can be. So why do we age? Why do we age? Because every cell inside of us is always striving toward perfect function. And every cell inside of you will repair. I remember when I was a kid, they used to say, well, you only have so many brain cells, and you go into a room full of paint or something, and you're destroying your brain cells, or you drink alcohol or smoke marijuana, you're destroying your brain cells that you'll never get back. Well, that was a lie. I don't know if that was a convenient untruth or a purposeful lie, but that's just not true. So everything in you will regenerate. Another thing that was real common for a while was telomeres, right? So you guys have probably heard this thing about telomeres, and telomere is kind of you can think of it as a tail on a cell and every time that it divides and recreates a new self, that tail will get a little bit shorter and a little bit shorter and a little bit shorter. And that's true, but there's things that you can do to just completely regrow the telomeres in cells. And so there's some things in nature that you can do. And it turns out, listening to relaxing meditative music will help your telomeres. So, there's all this stuff that people have come out with, and it's turned out to be not true. But everything in the way that I study, and again, who am I? You can look me up and, kind of gain my, feel comfortable that I know what I'm talking about. But, I've been an adjunct professor. I've helped build curriculum at major universities. So, I know what I'm talking about here. But what I've done is I've really drilled into a cell, right? So what does a cell need? How does a cell work? What are cells' inputs? What are its outputs? What does it eat? All those things. What's a cell really want to do? Wants to make protein. That's what he really wants to do. But, so I've really looked at everything from a cellular level and actually from a mitochondrial level. So if you have healthy mitochondria, you'll have healthy cells. If you have healthy cells, you will have healthy organs and healthy systems, and you'll be healthy. So that seems logical to me and a good way to tear this apart. So, but let's look at aging. So why do we age? Everything inside of us repairs. But do we understand this well enough, let's say, to give ourselves the resources to allow everything in us to repair? And I would argue we don't. In fact, because we don't have an owner's manual, we do all kinds of things that limit our age. Okay. And so let's talk about some of those. So first of all, you're designed as a vehicle to kind of eat one big meal a day. Okay. So eating is consequential. Eating creates a lot of stress on your body, a lot of extra work. And again, in a perfect world, we would figure out exactly what nutrients we need every day. We would eat that amount of nutrients one time a day, and maybe even twice that many nutrients once every 2 days. Okay. But there's an optimal about when, let's say, how frequently we should eat. And I'm not saying I know what that optimal is. It's going to be a little bit, variable depending on you, but there is an optimal, and we're far away from that optimal right now. So what do we do now? We eat way too frequently, and this creates all this stress on our body. All right. So by eating too frequently, we create a situation where we're not as energetic. We don't have as much energy to put into our immune system to defend ourselves. And we're not as robust. And so, the first thing for longevity that we need to figure out is we need to figure out our optimal, let's say, how many times we should eat a day optimally. And that's looking to be one or less right now. Now, Cindy and I kind of do that, but it's somewhat difficult to do. Nobody's behaving in that way yet, but I'm just saying, if I look at cells and kind of what a cell needs and how your body works, minimizing the amount of times that you eat is super important. Okay. Very important. The second thing, if you want to live a long time, is you've got to balance omega-3 and omega-6 fats. This is the biggest mistake that we make on our own health. And again, why we need this owner's manual. And it's all over the owner's manual. As you'll see, you'll get so tired of reading omega-3 and omega-6 fats. I get tired of talking about them. But omega-3 and omega-6 fats are what build our endocannabinoid system, which is our master regulatory system. So again, by our lack of understanding of this, we are building and configuring ourselves in a very reactive way, and in a way that makes us age faster. Okay, so part of aging, let's say, has to do with oxidative stress. So God is a perfect engineer. I'm always going to come back to that. Why would our teeth, our eyes, and our hair go bad before the rest of us do? I mean, that's poor engineering. It's just, that's not good engineering. That's not optimal. So why wouldn't you have everything last the same amount of time? And the reason that our eyes and our teeth and our hair go bad before everything else really has to do with oxidative stress and infection. If we're infected, we're going to get chronically inflamed, and chronic inflammation will cause oxidative stress, which causes all kinds of aging, like say, symptoms. Okay. So the more oxidative stress that you have, the more likely you are to age. And it's just that simple. So if you're infected with something, that's going to cut down the amount of time that you're going to live. If you let that something run for a long time, that's going to cut down the amount of time that you live. As to diet, again, if we're eating equal amounts of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, we're going to set a tone and a state in our body that's very dynamic and can handle a lot of different stuff. If we're eating an excess of omega-6s over omega-3s, we set a very reactive and inflammatory tone in our body. So any stimulus will cause us to react and inflame, and that might be a small little dust mite allergy, and you're going to react and inflame to that the same as you would a tuberculosis infection. Okay, so not what we want, not what we want at all. We want our immune system to tone down, be discerning and understanding about kind of what it should really react to and what it should react just a little bit to. And right now we react this way to everything. But that's so easy to fix. And again, this is just stuff we're doing to ourselves just to eat more omega-3s right now. But ultimately, we're going to need to be concerned about balance, about omega-3 and omega-6 balance in our diet. There's no way that you get that if you eat, let's say, normal food or processed food. So you're getting very little of that. You have to work to balance omega-3 and omega-6 fats. All right, so let's talk a little bit about exercise. So there's no question that exercise will help you be more robust. What it does to our bodies is it kind of puts us in this hyper fasted state. And so we're way more efficient. The way that we're designed is stress, right? So if I stress your body out, if I force you to exercise, if I keep you from your last meal, if I make you cold, if I put you under pressure, your body's going to perform better, which is awesome, right? So people who exercise, like people who are runners, people who do a lot of aerobic exercise, have a lot more, let's say, probability to live longer than people who don't, because you're just sort of hitting all these gears. You're kind of cleaning out your body. Your body is energetically kind of lighting up and then calming down and lighting up and calming down. And that stimulates your mitochondria. Again, healthy mitochondria mean healthy cells mean healthy organs mean healthy systems, which means a healthy you. So the more that we can do for our mitochondria, the better. And again, energy, exercise forces mitochondria to produce energy and do so in the most efficient way they can. Now, I will say this, if you're an athlete or if you exercise a lot, it is super critical that you balance omega-3 and omega-6 fats. Because if you don't, basically this work that you're doing, it's not going to hurt you necessarily, but it's not going to help you as much as if you're balancing omega-3 and omega-6 fats. Omega-3 and omega-6 are part of every cell wall. Okay. If you look at cholesterol and, why would God's a perfect engineer, right? Why would cholesterol cells get sticky? They need to get sticky in order to stop in your blood vessel so that they can kind of go to specific places in your body. So most people don't know how this works. So let me explain this. So a cell has a need, and a cell has a need for cholesterol. Well, why would a cell have a need for cholesterol? Healing, repair. So it's repair is cholesterol is part of every cell. Cholesterol is 40% of your brain. So it's a brick and mortar in your body. So if the cell whistles up some cholesterol, I need some cholesterol. What's going to happen is an LDL cholesterol cell is going to be loaded with cholesterol in the liver, and it's going to hear that call. How does it hear that call? That's some fun stuff, but it's going to hear that call and it's going to head toward that cellular structure that's needing that. Now, how does it do that? In blood vessels. So this guy's cruising along through your blood vessel. How does he know where to stop? Yeah. So there's stickiness that forms on that cell wall, and he's coming by and he'll stick to that place, and then he can kind of get into that area through the blood vessel wall lining, right? So he's got a way to do that, but he sticks, and that's part of the function of your body. So it's the way your immune system works. So if you're doing a bunch of immune repair in a certain area, you're going to get kind of sticky in that area, but you don't want to get permanently sticky. And that's what plaque is, right? So arteriosclerosis, that's what plaque is permanent stickiness. Now that happens when your cell walls become where the majority of them are omega-6s, and you also get lipid paradoxation, which can be bad for us. So again, plaque shouldn't form normally. You should have this a little bit of stickiness in order to work your immune system, but it shouldn't, you shouldn't have something stick and then stick and then stick and then begin to close up your arteries. So that is plaque, and that is directly due to overconsumption of omega-6 fats. Okay. So eating more omega-3, omega-6 is going to balance that out. Again, how do I optimize my heart? Right? Well, it's easy to pump water through a tube. It's harder to pump syrup through a tube. And if those tubes get narrow, it's even harder to pump that syrup through a tube. And that's what we're talking about, right? So general inflammation from infection will cause basically your blood to thicken because it's an immune function. And then if your arteries are narrowing anyway, that'll absolutely, crap you right out, right? So we have to be aware of those types of things, but they all come back to these higher principles. So if we really understood our function, if we really understood what a cell needed, if we were nutrienting exactly as to what that cell needed in the frequency that we need to, some of these problems, we're never going to have a plaque problem because we're eating the proper amounts of omega-3, omega-6. We're not going to have a chronic inflammation problem unless we just get that one very strong, rare bug that can beat our immune system, because we're going to have a very robust immune system. So most of the stuff that, let's say, the consequences of aging fall out from us not behaving in the proper way and eating the right things and exercising in the right way. So if you look at blue zones, and there's been a lot written on blue zones, right? So blue zones are areas where people live, I think, to be over 100, but they certainly live to be longer than in most other areas on average. So what do those people do? Well, they all have generally, some of them have a horrible diet, which is, weird, but just, non-linear, let's say. But most of them have a good diet. Most of them eat, they don't overeat, let's say, and a lot of them will be intermittent fasters. They all spend time outside. They all spend time in the sun. All right. So this is what I want to kind of wrap up with, is the sun. And in order for you to really maximize, let's say, your time here in this vehicle on this planet, so driving around this thing that we don't have an owner's manual for, we really need to understand our relationship to the sun. Okay. And this is another area where, let's say, we just generally haven't been told the truth. So what do most of us believe? Well, we're a mammal, we kind of act like a mammal. We build vitamin D from the sun, but, we could live underground forever, is kind of what we're led to believe. And, sun, no big deal, not really that important. Well, boys and girls, I'll tell you right now, the sun is the most important thing in your life every day. It is the most important relationship that you have. You don't exist without your relationship with the sun in some form or fashion. Okay, so it is super important. Now, here's the cool stuff, is you're not a mammal. You have a special relationship with the sun that mammals don't have. And this is enough of a difference to, let's say, taxonomy, I can't say the other word, in taxonomy, to be able to differentiate us from mammals. Your dog or a monkey or a cat can produce vitamin D in Alaska. You can't. You have to be in certain places on the earth in order to produce vitamin D. And you have to be south of, Oklahoma, let's say, for most of us, to be able to produce vitamin D from the sun. Okay. So that is a special relationship that you have. And it goes way, way, way deeper than that. But most of it's a little too woo-hoo for us right now. But one of the things that's absolutely common with, let's say, these people that live to be over 100 is they all spend time in the sun. And you'll notice, again, and probably barefoot in dirt in the sun because they're grounding. It's super important that we do this, but it's so not really in our awareness right now and not in our thinking. If I told you why, if I told you you're like a big battery and you have to be recharged every day and the electrons have to move, and we need a new definition of life, right? The definition of life should have to do with the rate at which you're moving electrons. And when I put you in the sun, you move electrons faster. So you become arguably more alive. If I put you in the dark, you move electrons slower. Pathogens have to move electrons inside of you. That's why they rob your metals. At certain times you have tissue systems that fall below the threshold. They get decayed. They attract bacteria that like dying things. So we're like this big kind of system of cells, but the sun is so important in how we function. So getting in the sun 20 minutes a day, amazing, amazing. Make sure you're not behind glass either, because glass blocks certain rays of the sun and certain things that the sun can do for you. We'll be talking a lot more about the sun and light and vibration and frequency and all that as we move on with Chip Talks Health. A lot of it's pretty deep science, though. And so one of the things that I try to do is I want to make sure that I can explain to anyone what I'm trying to explain to them. And so some of that stuff is kind of hard to explain right now, but all that's coming attraction. All that's a coming attraction to health. So aging, how old do I think you can live? You ready? You ready for it? Wait for it. Wait for it. I don't think I can live to be this old now because I've had, 50 years of bad behavior. But some of the kids now I think can live to be 1,000 years old. 1,000 years old. Again, and that kind of lines up biblically nicely, doesn't it? And I think certainly this vehicle that we're given has the capability to run that long. It's our abuse of it that only makes it last 80, and our lack of understanding of it that makes it only last, 80 or 90 years or so. So there you go. That's it on longevity and aging. We do have products, I would say, in True Medics that will absolutely, I'm getting ready to come out with a new, it's kind of a mitochondrial enhancement product. So I'll have it out in the next couple of weeks. I don't know what we'll call it yet, but it'll be a mitochondrial enhancement product. That'll be great. Our Vitality product in True Medics is a extremely good supplement for aging and for general health, mental health, and all that. So anyway, we'll leave it there for this week. We'll see you guys back next week for another exciting episode of Chip Talks Health. See you guys. Bye. Happy New Year.